Good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well. Happy Friday for those that are joining us live. For those that are watching in any other day, I hope it's a happy day as well. Good morning and l'chaim to those that are enjoying our morning coffee. The truth is, coffee is a drink that should be drunk at all moments of the day. What an incredible day. We've been talking a lot about this concept. For those that are joining us now for the first time, welcome. For those that have been coming back, as you know, we've been charting down the course of execution. We've been spending a lot of time in this world of taking these visions, the sanctuary of our mind that we spoke about last week, and talking about how to make it actual and practical. It's nice to have visions, but you can get caught in it. I had this trap when I was much younger where I would read book after book after book after book about what you can be, what you could be, what you want to be. And it was so exciting that while I was reading the book, everything was possible. And as soon as I put the book down, I went back to where I was. And I only got the feeling when I picked up another book. And it dawned on me, I was on a plane from, I remember I was a plane from Boston to New York. I was a young lawyer. I had gone through 2 days of mind-numbing, soul-wrenching due diligence, which is, for those lawyers in the room, you know what this is. It's like the way they haze associates. They put you in a room with 4 billion documents, and if you don't end up quitting, I guess you get to survive another day. And I remember reading these books in the hotel rooms about what I want to be, stuck in these boring due diligence rooms, going through hundreds of emails of some case or whatever. And for the next, in the hotel, I was like, wow, this is great. I get to be this and I want to be this. And then I remember on the plane ride home, Boston to LaGuardia, I was like, wait a second. I keep on reading these books. I only feel this way when I'm reading books. But what about getting it done? What about changing my life? And that's what this week is about. That's what we've been spending a lot of time on. That's what I'm hoping those that have been with me and we're together on this, we're a team. I'm hoping that when we're going through this day after day, it's not just to hear something, but it's also to work together to make it practical, to make it real. So how do you make that real? How do you take your vision and implement it? How do you turn it into your life? And the misconception, the pump fake, the reason why we can't do it is because we think that our dreams they're in front of us, but for our willpower. We think that the reason why I can't achieve the dreams that are in my mind is because I don't have enough willpower, but that's not true. And that's what we spoke about earlier this week. You have a finite amount of willpower. You can't just implement an infinite number of moments where you could just impose your will on the rest of your mind. Your brain is a computer, and if it's not programmed for you to be excellent, you're not going to be excellent, period, end of story. Yes, you can override the system every once in a while, but typically you got to work with the system. That's why God gave it to you. He didn't give you the system to work against it. You think God created a world and he gave you a computer called a brain and is like, hey, if you really want to do great things, you got to override your brain? You got to change how I built you? No, he's like, listen, figure it out. Work with the system. So how do you work with the system? Well, the system changes based on consistent thought. And if you just tap into that way of seeing the world, that you create your own consistent thought, then you're going to actually recode the software and it'll impact the hardware of your brain. And one day your natural being will be at a standard higher than you are now. Will it be the ultimate? That's what life's about. And everyone here who's ever grown knows exactly this is the same way. Whether it's in physical growth, you can run 2 miles where when you started you couldn't walk down the street. Whether it's spiritual growth, you can say this or pray this or feel this. Whether it's in relational growth, the way you treat your spouse, the way you treat your children is much greater than it was. Or whatever it is, when you see real growth, that real growth really is the coding in your brain has changed. And now it feels automatic. And now it feels normal. Brushing your teeth feels normal when you're an adult, I hope, because you've coded your brain to include teeth brushing. Now, all we got to do is take that mentality and apply it to higher and higher standards of excellence. And if we keep at it and allocate the willpower there, and know with our hearts that if I put my willpower and impose my will, I'm building new neuroplasticity, I'm building new habits, I'm holding the ritual together long after the inspiration fades. And when every part of my body goes, don't do it, don't get up, don't hold back that word, don't make that call, whatever the thing is, if we just hold the willpower on that long enough, over time, it'll get easier and easier and easier and easier. And then you'll take that willpower and you'll put it to the next thing. And then you'll build the next ritual. And you'll continuously build around the things you want. How do we do it? So we ended last week with this concept of an issue-based vision. I'm going to talk about this. Hopefully, we'll see how much time we have. And then if not, we'll just talk about it next week. If you go into the minds of some of the greatest entrepreneurs, if you go into the minds of some of the greatest innovators, you'll see that most of them are not like geniuses. It's a huge misconception. There are industries where geniuses, rest. My sense is like, in science, you have a higher proportion of really smart people as you get to the upper ranks. Anyone who's in business, you know that there are these hedge funds, like these quant funds, where they hire from very, very specific ranks. You have to have a certain level of intellectual capacity to process a certain amount of data. If you go into the world of entrepreneurship, you don't find that. For every person who is brilliant, there's somebody who can barely get out of school. When I mean brilliant, I don't mean like brilliant the way we say it. Brilliant, I mean like school brilliant. There's brilliance that are being found in millions of different ways, even people that don't do great in school. School does not measure brilliance. School measures analytical ability and memorization. There's a lot more on this beautiful world called brilliance that school can never catch. But if you look into the world of entrepreneurs, what you find is that they share very similar properties. They share the same perspective on issues. Issues to an entrepreneur is an opportunity. Issues to most people is an annoyance. It's annoying to not be able to find a cab on a rainy day. To an entrepreneur, that's an opportunity to create a ride-sharing app that now allows regular drivers to drive you things called Uber. It's annoying to not be able to shop around during this period of time, to whoever created, Instacart or Go-Kart, whatever the latest thing is, when people shop for you. If you look at the great innovations of the world, they really stem from people that look at issues. The entire state of Israel is an example in this. It's an example of individuals who are sitting around going, we just want to live with safety and security, and we have a lot going on around us. It's a constant state of trying to figure out how to get better, how to adapt, how to grow. This is so in line with who we are. This is so in line with how our brain was created to enable us to adapt to the environment around us. But here's how it works, and I want to get underneath this with you. When we deal with issues, it's the way our brain is supposed to grow. Is we're supposed to enable ourselves to feel a certain level of okayness, comfort in the issue. If you ever have that situation where you have a close friend, maybe a business partner, maybe a relative, and there are issues in the relationship. Maybe some people, someone says it this way, they mean it this way, right? What happens to us? People speak differently. To some people, I love you is I wake up at 5 o'clock and go to work. For some people, I love you is I say it 10 times a day. right? For some people, when I come home, when I call you 10 times and say, where are you? Where are you? You know, when mom calls and checks in with you 24/7, from the mom's perspective, it's I love you. From the teenager's perspective, it's mom's annoying. She doesn't trust me, right? We have different ways of communicating, different ways of living, different visions. You ever try to have a conversation with somebody and you're getting to that place where you're growing in the relationship and then it gets like challenging? And then like one party like just disappears. Like they just can't handle it. They just detach. You ever do that? You ever fight with someone over something in like business? And then after like a while, that person's like, okay, you're right. No, okay, fine, you're right. And they're like, no. If I'm not right, say I'm not right. You know what I'm talking about? And the guy's like, fine, it's fine. Whatever you want to do, it's whatever you want to do. It's because there's a conflict going on inside us. The conflict is our brains are really great at adapting, but they also have this feeling called cognitive dissonance, where it's uncomfortable when there are two different sort of things in our brains that are butting up against each other. While our brain is really good at adapting, it doesn't initially love tension. So if you put me in a difficult conversation and I have no choice to get through it, I will naturally adapt to figure out, what did I do right? What did I do wrong? How do we make this better? And if I just keep at it over time, I'm going to learn how to be a better spouse. I'm going to understand you in a more nuanced way. If I spend my time sitting in the feedback forms of my business and I really understand why people are not answering my calls or buying my product, the more I get into that world of feeling like what's wrong, my brain is really good at figuring it out, but it doesn't love tension. So as soon as I get close to being tense, I leave. As soon as I get close to figuring something out, as it gets hard, I leave. As soon as the relationship conversation gets too difficult, I leave. We don't naturally want to be in a place of cognitive tension. So as it gets tense, we leave. And in leaving tension, we're missing the most important part of what our brain could do for us. It could figure out anything. It's a massive computer. So as we think about these rituals that we have to put together, and this is where we're up to in this process, we have things in our quiver. We have willpower. We have vision of where we want to be. But what gets in our way to getting to our goals is issues, is challenge, our blocks. We know what we want, but to get there, all of a sudden there's traffic. All of a sudden there's like there's a moat. All of a sudden I got to climb over a fence. I got to change how I think. I got to change how I relate to food. I got to change how I relate to God. I got to change my life. And where most people stop is they go, okay, I got my willpower and I really want to change. No, I really want to change. And I know that's the top of the hill. And they get to that first challenge. And as they get to that first challenge, your brain goes, no. Don't engage in this. No. Don't engage in this. What I know, watch this. Check out this funny video on WhatsApp. Just no, distract here. Look here. Oh, awesome, right? Scroll, keep on scrolling. Good. Okay, you feeling better now? Well, let's watch somebody else do it. Everyone's talking to me about this whole Michael Jordan thing. I'm getting all pumped about Michael Jordan. There's this new documentary called The Last Dance. I didn't see it yet. Everyone's calling me, you got to see it. And I mean, when I jog, this is what I do. I watch sports. So like, I can't wait to see it. But like, it's so us to obsess over one person who fought through his challenges to be great, because we'd much rather do that and make films and documentaries. The guy retired, and he's Michael Jordan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Michael Jordan is like, forget about to me. And I'm looking at some people here that I know that are from Chicago. Forget about it. But it's so us to take someone's life and obsess over it for the rest of their lives because they achieved greatness. It's so much easier to watch Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant and Tom Brady achieve greatness than to watch my life achieve greatness. So when I hit my issues, when I hit my challenges, My brain says to me, you don't like tension. Don't figure this out. Just distract yourself and just wait another day. You don't really want to do this. So when we're building our rituals, we're not really getting into what needs to be fixed. And we could, if we will just allow ourselves to stand in that tension a little while longer. Right? That's the game. To stand in the tension, to grapple with a failure, and to deepen our thinking to say, okay, I keep on failing at this. What in the world is going on with me? How do I fix this? What can I do every day for a few minutes, nonstop, to change my brain so that I can grapple with an issue that is real? I'm scared of this. I'm worried about this. I don't know this. My wife tells me that something is wrong. I can't even hear her because I'm too busy blocking her to hear the feedback. Because if I could just listen to the feedback, I'll know what to do. If I just stop and pause and allow myself to spend a few minutes thinking about where I'm failing, it's not going to kill me. I'm not going to lose all self-confidence. I'm going to gain the feedback from the environment that will tell me where to fix myself. If I could just listen, I can get the insights that I'm going to need to fix myself. And this distinction between constantly protecting ourselves and constantly making ourselves vulnerable comes down to one difference. And we're going to get into this difference next week in a much deeper way. This is based on a concept by a psychologist named Anders Ericsson. There's a book out there that is of the most famous books today in growth. It's called Outliers by a man named Malcolm Gladwell. In that book, Malcolm Gladwell spoke about a concept called the 10,000 hour rule based on neuroplasticity. And the theory behind the rule, which now we understand for those that have been with us, is that if thought, right, makes new neuroplasticity, if you do something for 10,000 hours, you're an expert in it, not because you were born that way, but because you've got a lot of neuroplasticities that way. And we're going to go through this next week. So I want to put it to you just now as we end the week, just for the cliffhanger sense of it. Anders Ericsson comes in and says it's 10,000 hours not of doing something. It's 10,000 hours of what's called deliberate practice. You see, the way we grow is through failure. The way our whole lives work is by fixing issues. You don't just do things again and again. He says if you do them with a concept called deliberate practice, your life is just practice. When you see yourself as only a work in progress, and you look at the environment around you as a coach, especially if you understand and believe that the environment is being changed by God every second. But if you look at the world around you as the feedback to how to make yourself better, not as the I am who I am and I got to protect my own sense of being okay and nobody mess with me, but I'm just practicing. And you just look at the world as feedback for how I'm doing, it'll give you the information that'll form your next ritual, which will make you better, more feedback, better, and then round and round we go on the path to excellence. So this is the homework for the weekend. Homework for the weekend is try to write. Do this. If you can't write it, because just think about it. Try to look at your life. I don't care if you're 21 or you're 81. If your eyes are open, the goal of life is to get better. That's what makes life so enjoyable. Try to look at one our lives today and let's try together over the weekend to pick one ritual. Look at some of the issues that we're grappling with. Look at some of the things that consistently bother us. Sit in that tension for a few minutes. Don't run from it. Sit in it. And from it, come out with one ritual, 5 minutes or less, that you can do every single day. This is the path that people greater than us have taken. This is the path with people that have less than us that have used to become bigger. And this will hopefully be the path that we can use together to become the people that we know we can be. We'll talk next week. Really, we'll get into it with God's help. I know I'm promising you. I know Richard's out there. I know you're there, Richard. I know. I owe you this. I owe you a couple of stories. I appreciate that. And we're going to talk next week about some serious examples. We're going to go into the deliberate practice, and we'll continue to push this. But for this weekend, let's see if each of us can come up with one ritual. We'll make it real. All right. Have an awesome weekend. Thanks so much for the time this week. And with God's help, really, really, really looking forward to seeing you next week. Shabbat Shalom to all those. And with God's help, looking forward to speak to you next week.